My boyfriend, 25-year-old male, and I, 25-year-old female, have been dating for 2.5 years and living together with a third roommate, 23-year-old male, for the past 10 months. Safe to say, I'm not very happy in this situation and was sort of forced to live here due to my boyfriend rushing our apartment search and signing the lease without my approval. He was going to law school in Pennsylvania and decided to transfer to a law school in New York. I was living on Long Island at the time with my parents, and I work in NYC. Despite my advice, he was pressured by his parents and the broker of our current apartment, since it was a month before he started school, and traveled to NYC for a day to look at an apartment while I was on a weekend trip in California to visit my niece. I asked him to wait until I returned to look at apartments, but he signed the lease, with the expectation that I was going to be living with him no matter what, I suppose. When I was upset and said I didn't want to live there because the rent was expensive, the area was not ideal, and the building was old, he got upset and said I was abandoning him. I felt like it was a breach of trust and that my opinion was disregarded. Anyways, I wanted to give it a chance, as I had been living at home since graduating college and commuting 2.5 hours per day to work in the city, and wanted something easier. I have come to the conclusion that I'd like to move out once the lease is up and either live back home for a short period of time, live with other girls my age, or live alone, depending on what I can afford. My job has been stressing me out since I started it 10 months ago, and it's been taking a toll on my health. I already have been dealing with hormonal issues due to PCOS, thyroid issues, insomnia, etc. for the past 3 years. I started birth control when we first started dating, which helped some issues but worsened my mood, anxiety, and insomnia. I decided to come off of it last year, and I feel like my PCOS symptoms are back and worse. I feel exhausted each day, and I'm dealing with internal mood swings. I've explained to my boyfriend all these things so many times, and although he tries to be helpful, he really doesn't put in any research to help me, and does helpful things that don't help me in the long term. I know that he'll do most things I tell him to do, and get me things if I need them. But I have to tell him first. And he doesn't know how to cook and never wants to. Doesn't really want to work out with me. And is overall just not a great influence on me since I tend to be lazier around him. Also, he tends to smoke Zaza a lot with our roommate in our main room, almost every day, which bothers me a lot. That being said, I recognize that a lot of these issues are my problems, but I do need independence and alone time to really push myself to make the lifestyle changes I want that will help alleviate my symptoms. I've always been on the independent side, and have lived abroad by myself too. Although I've told him for a while now, me moving out seemed to have been brought up yesterday, and he made a hurtful comment to me last night before bed, which caused me to become upset and not sleep. He tends to internalize and take things personally, like me wanting to move out, is because I don't love him and he's not good enough. I've explained that this doesn't have to be long-term, only maybe a year, because we moved in really fast and went from long distance to living together. I could just use some guidance. He makes me feel really guilty sometimes because he says he loves me so much and doesn't want to live apart, but I think it's slightly controlling and manipulative. Do you think that I should move out in this situation? Thanks for reading and giving your perspective. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Yes, I think you should move out, but I also think you should expect that doing so may end your relationship, as he will likely perceive it as a step backwards in your commitment to him, no matter how you explain it. I think if that happens, it will be the right outcome here. But you should make a decision with that in mind. If you really want to prioritize your boyfriend over your health and finances and well-being, you can do that. But go in knowing that's the choice you're making. Comment 2. I understand your situation. That being said, just mentally prepare yourself to most likely be broken up with when you move out, either right away or after some time. Some relationships survive the partner moving out, most of them don't. Moving out for a year and then moving back in together most likely won't change things. You're just attempting to prolong the inevitable. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around. Well, things went from bad to worse. My boyfriend's law school stress hit an all-time high, and he started picking fights over the smallest things. It's like walking on thin ice every day. Then, out of nowhere, our roommate lost his job. He couldn't pay his share of the rent, and guess who he expected to cover for him? Yep, my boyfriend, and me. I was already stretched thin with my own bills and health issues, but my boyfriend, being the generous guy he is, agreed to help our roommate without even asking me. Our finances took a hit and the tension in the apartment was unbearable. I was furious, but my boyfriend just brushed it off, saying we had to stick together. Then, one evening, I came home early from work to find my boyfriend and our roommate in a heated argument. Turns out, the roommate had been secretly using my boyfriend's credit card to pay for his own expenses. When confronted, he tried to lie his way out of it, but the evidence was clear as day. I was livid, not just at the betrayal, but at the fact that my boyfriend had been so naive. In the midst of all this chaos, I got a call from my doctor with some concerning test results related to my PCOS and thyroid issues. I needed to start a new treatment plan immediately, which meant more medical bills. I was overwhelmed, to say the least. But the real kicker came when I discovered that my boyfriend had been venting to a mutual friend about our relationship issues, twisting the story to make it seem like I was the unreasonable one. This friend, who I thought I could trust, had been advising him behind my back to break up with me if I didn't shape up. I couldn't believe it. The betrayal stung more than anything. I was done. I decided to move out no matter the cost. I found a small studio apartment and moved in within a week. It was a struggle, but I needed the space to heal and focus on my health. The aftermath was messy. My boyfriend was shocked and hurt, but I couldn't handle his manipulative guilt trips anymore. Our roommate was eventually kicked out, and my boyfriend had to deal with the financial mess he'd created. I heard through the grapevine that he had to drop out of law school temporarily to work full-time and pay off the debts. As for me, I started my new treatment and began to feel better. I reconnected with old friends and even started dating someone new, someone who respected my need for independence and supported my health journey. It wasn't easy, but I learned that sometimes you have to make tough decisions for your own well-being. Thanks for reading my update. Aita for being accused of cheating by my mother-in-law and her spreading rumors. Despite clear evidence of my innocence, been married to Mary for 2 years now. Her mother is a bit dramatic. Always has been. I always liked her, but she has a sort of Real Housewives of New Jersey kind of attitude about things. She was a bit distrustful of me because of the age difference and the fact that my wife's previous boyfriend cheated on her, but she eventually came around, until recently. I went out for drinks with 3 coworkers one night. 2 of the people went outside to smoke cigarettes at various points, leaving me alone with one coworker, a woman. Mary's mother apparently drove by and saw me sitting with her. This had to have happened when the other 2 were smoking. She took a picture of me from her car and sent it to my wife with a whole essay about how I was a cheating jerk and she should leave me and should have never have trusted me. My wife took my side right away, and I had evidence on my phone. A time-stamped picture of the 4 of us posing for a pic, like 20 minutes before my mother-in-law sent the pic. My wife has also hung out with this group before and knows that the other 2 people smoke cigarettes. Nothing about that picture was suspicious to my wife. She knows everybody involved quite well. When she replied and showed the timestamp to her mother flipped out at her, calling her naive and saying I could have edited the time and date. She didn't even know what a timestamp is. She thought I photoshopped it. She accused me of manipulating her, brainwashing her, etc., saying that no normal girl would tolerate this behavior. For some context, the mother is very much the type of person to think men and women shouldn't ever socialize outside of family and marriage. The image of me sitting at a table with just one woman is crazy to her no matter the context. But even then, she doesn't believe the context. Her thinking this is one thing, but she spread this rumor to everybody. My wife's entire family on both sides is now convinced I am a cheater, and my mother-in-law very specifically told them that I used a photoshopped image to deceive my wife and that my wife is being brainwashed by me. My wife has gotten calls from cousins and aunts telling her to leave me. They will not listen to any reason. It's become such a problem that it's become basically open hostility between her family and her, with everybody constantly nagging at her to leave me. We had multiple plans with them. We were supposed to go away on a vacation to Miami in August with her family. We were planning BBQs and rooftop parties with them, and now Nothing. This is especially a problem considering her previous boyfriend also cheated on her, and she apparently stayed with him and defended him for years, which makes everybody extra suspicious of this. Everybody's just telling her it's the same thing over again with me, that she is making excuses and ignoring reality just like with her previous boyfriend. They will not trust anything she says as a result. What the hell do we do? My wife is just torn to bits over this. It makes me horribly depressed knowing how much I have indirectly hurt her, even if I didn't technically do anything wrong that day. Almost every day, she has been arguing with her family about this. Her words just come off hollow after she said effectively the same words about her last boyfriend. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I understand why your wife's family would immediately believe your mother-in-law when she claims that you cheated on your wife because of her past relationship. However, she is way out of line for immediately assuming that something was going on after seeing you with another woman. It's unfortunate that she still thinks men and women can't just be friends. She didn't even have any proof of cheating. She just drove by, saw you with another woman, and instantly assumed you were unfaithful. Thankfully, you have proof that you didn't cheat. But anyway, this is definitely crossing the line. And boundaries need to be set because your mother-in-law literally spread this rumor. And now your wife's whole family is harassing her to break up with you. And that's not right. Comment 2. This terrible situation presents an opportunity to establish a boundary. Since your mother-in-law decided she knew what was happening and cannot be convinced otherwise, there's no point in engaging in any actions to disprove something you know is insane. Instead, focus on being there for your wife and helping her navigate this mess. Consider seeking the assistance of a couples therapist for some guidance. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for the update. So it's been a week, and you wouldn't believe the mess that's unfolded. Remember how Mary's mom caught me with my co-worker and blew it way out of proportion? Well, it got worse. Mary's ex, the one who cheated on her, suddenly showed up. He had the nerve to tell her that he's changed and that she should take him back. As if that wasn't enough, he's been spreading rumors that I was the reason they broke up, saying I stole her from him. Mary was furious, and so was I. But her family, they ate it up. They started saying maybe Mary should consider giving him another chance. I couldn't believe it. They were actually taking the side of the guy who actually cheated on her. And here I am getting walked all over, with everyone thinking I'm the bad guy. But then, something happened. One of Mary's cousins, who had been on my side the whole time, found some old texts from Mary's ex that proved he was still seeing other girls after they broke up. She showed these to the family. It was like a bomb went off. Suddenly, everyone was questioning everything. They started to see that maybe they had been too quick to judge me. In the middle of all this, Mary's mom got into a huge fight with her sister about the whole situation. It got so bad that they're not speaking to each other anymore. The family is split down the middle, some siding with Mary's mom and some with us. It's like a soap opera, I'm telling you. And then, just when we thought things couldn't get any crazier, Mary's mom did something unexpected. She went to my work and started yelling in front of everyone that I was a cheater. My boss had to call security to escort her out. It was humiliating. But it also backfired on her. People at work knew the woman I was with that night, and they knew we were just coworkers. So now Mary's mom looks like the crazy one to all my colleagues. After that, Mary had enough. She told her mom that if she couldn't trust her own daughter's judgment, then maybe they needed some time apart. It was a bold move, and it shook her mom to the core. She didn't expect Mary to stand up to her like that. Now we're trying to pick up the pieces. Some of Mary's family have apologized to us, but others are still holding on to their suspicions. Mary and I are stronger than ever, though. We're planning to go on that Miami trip, just the two of us now. It's not the vacation we planned, but maybe it's the one we need. Thanks for reading. Aita for filing for divorce. After my husband moved his ex into our house, my 28-year-old female husband, 28-year-old male, and I have been together around 2 years, married for about a year, and have a baby together. I really feel like we are in love at the core, but we've been having some issues lately. Background. Around 6 months into our relationship, He opened a snap in front of me from a girl he had never mentioned before, and it was a selfie with a good morning caption. When I asked him about it, he said it was nothing, and she probably sent that to a bunch of people. I ended up looking at his snaps and found messages that left no doubt they had hooked up many, many times in the past, but nothing during our time frame. So I let it go. Today I was telling him I didn't know a whole lot about his relationship history, only his most immediate ex, and had always wondered. So we went through and shared some stuff about our past relationships. I asked him his body count, and he asked me mine. He then asked who my extra numbers were outside of my relationships, so I asked him the same, except the girl from Snap was not included in his list. I asked him about her, and he said they talked about it, but never actually fricked. Then I told him I had looked at his Snap back when the good morning message happened, and he said, she gave me BJ, before finally telling me the truth that they were friends with benefits. She wasn't even included in his body count number, and I wasn't even going to ask who. I then questioned him about the timeline, and it had overlapped with his previous relationship, e.g., he cheated on his ex with a Snap girl. He swears up and down that he has never so much as messaged anyone flirtatiously since we've been together, and I do think I believe him. But I'm confused why he would lie to me if she didn't mean anything within our relationship. He says it's because the Snap caused an issue, and he didn't want it to be a thing again. But him lying to me about it has made it a major thing. He is mad and says I baited him and treated him like a mom catching their kid. But I was genuinely asking about his relationships, and when specifics came up, I was surprised she wasn't included in his count. It makes me wonder what else he is willing to lie to me about, if he lies to me about something that supposedly doesn't affect our relationship. He's lied a few other times too. One example. Before we got married, I asked him if he had any debt, and he said no. I later found out he had over $5,000 in credit card debt. I asked for couple counseling, which he agreed to, but then stormed off talking about how he can't wait for me to judge his character. Advice appreciated. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You're confused? Really? You've only known him for 2 years and he didn't want to tell you he's a cheater, so he lied. Not a great sign. Why did you marry someone you had only been with for a year? Whose history you didn't know? And immediately have a baby? Comment 2. He made it an issue by not being forthcoming, and now he's gaslighting you about baiting him. He's deflecting because he messed up. This would cause a rift in my marriage if my husband did this. It would beg the question, what else is he hiding? Now for the update. Thank you for tuning in again. So, the counseling sessions started, and it seemed like we were making progress. But then, out of the blue, his ex, the Snap girl, showed up in town. She was here for a job interview, and guess where? At his workplace. The tension at home was thick enough to cut with a knife. He insisted they were just going to be colleagues, nothing more. But I couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to it. What are the odds, right? And then, I found out he had recommended her for the job. He said it was just professional, but I felt betrayed. It was like he was weaving her back into our lives. Things at home got worse. We were arguing every day, and it was affecting our baby. She would cry whenever our voices raised, and it broke my heart. I felt like I was failing as a mother, letting my personal issues impact my child's well-being. Then, one evening, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was her, the ex. She said she needed to clear her conscience. She told me they had been in touch all along, even after our marriage. My world came crashing down. I confronted him, and after a lot of denials, he finally admitted it. He said it was just emotional support, but how could I believe anything he said anymore? I was at a loss. I felt like I didn't even know the man I married. I decided to stay with my sister for a while, to clear my head and think about what to do next. But when I returned home to talk things through, I found out he had moved Snap Girl into our house. He said it was because she had nowhere to stay after not getting the job, but it was clear there was more to it. I was furious and heartbroken. I filed for divorce. It was the hardest decision I've ever had to make, but I couldn't let my daughter grow up in a home without trust. The divorce was messy. He tried to blame me for everything, saying I pushed him away with my suspicions and lack of trust. In the end, I got full custody of our daughter, but he was granted visitation rights. It's been tough, adjusting to life as a single mom. I'm trying to rebuild my life and provide a stable home for my daughter. But every time he comes to pick her up, I'm reminded of the betrayal and how everything I thought we had was a lie. Thank you for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!